Points of Contact. Earthbound Cosmos. Short Story 4. 3 trillion. They arrived a little after 7 p.m. in a winter without snow. Footsteps on the driveway are muffled, as if the ground absorbs sound instead of returning it. I opened the door. Anya took off her gloves and stood in the doorway for a moment. Pablo stepped inside without a word, glanced sideways toward the garden. Mayone closed the door and turned the lock. That sound put the evening in order. "It's cold," Anya said. "But without snow," I replied. Shoes were left by the wall. Coats hung on the rack. The living room was bright and calm. Books on the shelves, a large table, a sheet of paper and a pencil I'd placed there earlier. Beyond the windows, a dark garden, snowless, motionless, as if it were waiting. We sat down. I turned on the kettle. "This is not a conversation about space," I said immediately. "This is a conversation about the bill." Pablo raised his eyebrows. "We're starting with money?" "With scale," I answered. "Without it, everything sounds like an opinion." "How much?" Anya asked. "About $3 trillion, if you add everything up. America, Europe, Russia, China. Rockets, orbital stations, telescopes, missions, several decades of a single decision." Silence fell. Not the awkward kind, the kind where a number begins to work. "And what do we get from it?" Mayone asked. "Knowledge," I replied. "Enormous, but conditional. Models that get revised. Conclusions that get withdrawn. Images that impress. And there are no fewer problems on Earth," Anya added. I nodded and reached for the paper. "Let's see what's really missing. Not in the future. Now." I drew a circle. Water. About 2 billion people have no safe access to drinking water. One proper well. $10,000. Anya looked at the paper. 300 million wells. "Yes," I confirmed. "Global demand covered, with surplus. In practice, the end of wars over water." Pablo shifted in his chair. "Wars don't start from ideas. They start from lack," Mayone said. "The rest is narrative." I slid the paper over. "Schools. Millions of children don't attend any. One school costs $1 million. 3 million schools," Anya said. "Too many." "Exactly," I replied. "Small classes, local institutions, the end of lost generations. Hospitals," Pablo cut in. "Without them, everything else collapses. A regional hospital costs $25 million. 120,000 hospitals. More than enough, globally." The kettle clicked. I poured the tea. "And instead," Anya said, "we have images of galaxies enhanced by graphic software." I didn't argue. I walked over to the window. "Do you know how many oceans we really know? The ones beneath us. Very little," Pablo answered. "Visually, less than 1/10,000% of the seafloor. Mapper properly, 27%. So we know more about Mars," Anya said, "than about our own planet. Because Mars doesn't demand responsibility," I replied. "The ocean does." "And the cost?" Mayone asked. "Complete mapping of the seabed. About $3 billion. 1/1000th of what we've spent on space." Silence returned, this time longer. "All right," Pablo said at last. "What about housing?" I smiled briefly. "The average global cost of one apartment? $100,000. 3 trillion divided by 100,000. 30 million apartments," Anya said quietly. 30 million families with a roof over their heads, Mayone added. "Without debt, without fear. Or the real end of slums in hundreds of cities," Pablo said. I looked at the garden. The earth was dark, wet, real. "Do you know what most conflicts have in common?" I asked Mayone. "A lack of a stable place to live, to raise children, to think about tomorrow. Without a home, there is no society," Mayone said. "Only a rotation of anger." We sat back down. "And now we return to space," Pablo said. "To agencies, missions, flags." "Yes," I replied. "All those programs gave us knowledge, but not a single apartment, not a single well, not a single school from this ledger." Anya sighed. "Someone will say, that's not their role. They always say that. Mayonek replied, until the rolls themselves start to burn. Pablo leaned against the table. The worst part is that we calculate all this in one evening, and systems pretend it's unimaginable. Because if it were imaginable, I said, someone would have to take responsibility for the choice. I dimmed the light in the living room. The house grew even quiet. The garden remained dark, snowless, calm. Do you think, Anya asked, that without space programs, we'd be better? I thought for a moment. I don't know if better, but we'd be more forced into maturity without the myth that the future is somewhere else. Without escape into orbit, Mayonek nodded. Maybe the problem isn't that we look at the stars, but that we do it, I added, before we learn to care for the ground beneath our feet. I thought then that a better society doesn't begin with a rocket. It begins with whether we can give people water, shelter, and tomorrow before we start looking for a new place to run. Sloikowski.com. Tomasz Sloikowski.